When Oxford University professor of law Dennis Galligan first approached me about the possibility of a conference in celebration of the UAE Constitution, I was immediately enthusiastic about his idea. Previously, I had invited Professor Galligan to participate in a conference to mark the start of the NYU Abu Dhabi Legal Studies program. Not only did he give a brilliant address on the occasion, but it also afforded me the opportunity to come to know what a fine human being Dennis truly is. Regretfully, Professor Galligan is unable to be with us today. However, he has prepared some remarks which it is now my honor to share with you. UAE Conference 50th Anniversary of the Constitution, Introductory Remarks, D.J. Galligan, Oxford University Professor of Socio-Legal Studies, Emeritus. Introduction. Among the many achievements of the UAE during the last 50 years, the many things to celebrate, the Constitution is one. Less obvious and less noticed, perhaps, than other dimensions of life, the constitutional arrangements are a vital part of the nation's structure and essential to its prosperity. In 1971, the UAE brought together several nations and peoples, each with its own history and traditions, its social understandings and ways of life. The constitutional order established in 1971 was refined and further developed in 2004. A successful unity is hard to achieve in any society, no matter how small or large, no matter how much the members have in common. It is so much more difficult to achieve and sustain the unity of several peoples and nations. A glance around the world soon shows how nations struggle to build and maintain an effective constitutional order. Some are plainly successful in establishing an effective system of government. Many fail altogether. Some steer an unsteady course between success and failure. The UAE is plainly in the first category, a nation that unites its parts and its peoples in a whole while respecting the differences among them. So one might ask, how has it managed? What has been its path to unity? The nature and purpose of a constitution. First, let me say a few words about the nature of constitutions. What is a constitution? Why does it matter? And what function does it perform in society? What are the variables it is determining? What about its success or failure? A constitution at its simplest states the rules by which the nation arranges its affairs. That has three main parts. One is to provide a system of government, that is, a set of officials and institutions who decide matters of policy, enact laws, and oversee implementation and enforcement. We might think of government as a coordinating agent. Government enables groups, interests, and sectors to coordinate, work together in achieving the common good. The common good, that is to say, the well-being of the people individually and collectively, is achieved principally by personal endeavor and by collective action of many kinds. The state is one form of collective action. History and experience have taught that the state, a well-working state, not only contributes to achieving the common good, but is essential. The power of the state, properly used, is a mighty force capable of achieving ends and purposes beyond the capability of other forms of collective action. At the same time, power once given is easily and often abused and misused. Measures need to be included in the Constitution to reduce the risk and ensure power is used for the right purposes. Finding a balance or equilibrium between unleashing power and holding it to its purposes is one of the main sources a constitution must address. A second function of a constitution is to settle the relationship between the people and the government. This means deciding on the form of government, who governs, and on what terms they govern. It includes the process by which a few are appointed to positions of power and how they are accountable to the people for the use of power. Several different forms are available, each with strengths and weaknesses, some more likely to provide good and effective government than others. That is closely related to the third function. The Constitution states the values and principles by which the society lives and according to which it wishes to be governed. This aspirational feature of constitutions may seem marginal, but it is important as a set of standards to reach and against which actions may be judged. To the three main functions, a fourth, less obvious, should be added. Constitutions are influenced by looking back to the past, addressing issues of the present, but also having an eye to the future. To bring all three together to form a constitutional order is a mighty undertaking. The last is a critical quality. Constitutions are permanent, not easy to change, and have to cope with the unexpected twists and turns of the future. Shocks are common, and crises sometimes occur. A well-designed constitution should be able to manage and survive both. Managing all four functions is the pathway to a sound and enduring constitutional order. The Constitution of the UAE. Turning now to the Constitution of the UAE. In 2016, Professor John Coughlin kindly invited me to present a lecture to mark the inauguration of the Legal Studies Department at New York University, Abu Dhabi. In preparing my lecture, and in the course of a few days in the region, I became aware of the unique and interesting nature of the nation and its constitution. Three things caught my attention. One was the diversity of peoples and traditions across the nations of the Union. A diversity at the same time leavened by shared features of religion, language, and culture. Another feature that stood out was the dynamic relationship between a society steeped in history and tradition on the one hand, yet able on the other hand to cope with and assimilate enormous change, social, economic, and political, to become a modern, prosperous society. The third feature was the success of the Constitution. The original Constitution, negotiated and settled by the parties with the guidance of the British government, was well-structured and well-suited to establishing the Union. On those foundations, the major revision of 2004 was based and suitably revised to take account of developments both within the Union and internationally. The original aims of cooperation, enduring stability, and a high international status seem to have been achieved. The purpose of this conference is to go beyond impressions and to examine the constitutional order in depth, to analyze how it has functioned and how it has responded to change internally and externally. It will be most interesting to hear the various accounts of different aspects of the Constitution and its operation in practice. One of my interests is the study of the variable factors that contribute to the success or failure of a constitutional order. The world is abundant in failures, each for reasons that can be identified and analyzed. The key to success is more elusive, harder to define. The United Arab Emirates is a case of success. Indeed, it may well be considered a model for other nations, a model from which to learn what is important in constructing a constitutional order, what to address and what to avoid. However, that requires first a close and rigorous study of the Constitution of the UAE, the study the Oxford Commission on Constitutions proposes to conduct. The differences among the member states should not be exaggerated, for there are also many commonly shared features, traditions, and ways of life. The UAE has managed to build on the shared features while accommodating diversity. These wonderful words from one of the foremost experts on constitutions in the world, Professor Dennis Galligan. Thank you, Professor Galligan.